The war room of the Galactic Federation's High Command was a place of cold light and hard decisions. Representatives from a dozen species sat in a circle, their eyes fixed on a holographic projection of Terminus 7. The planet spun slowly, its green and purple clouds swirling like a wound that would not heal. The Xylari were there, thin beings of logic who spoke in facts. The Drakari stood tall, their scales catching the light, always ready for a fight. The Vorth sat in their neat rows, bureaucrats who loved rules more than life itself. They all agreed on one thing. Terminus 7 was a death world. The files said it all. The plants moved on their own and attacked anything that came near. The animals were huge, with teeth and claws that could tear through metal. The air pressure changed without warning, sometimes strong enough to crush a small ship. No one went to Terminus 7 and came back. That was why the Federation used it as a dumping ground. Send your worst problems there, and the planet would solve them for you. That was where Cadet Kalen Voss came in. He stood in the center of the room, his hands cuffed behind his back. He was human, one of the new species that had joined the Federation only a few years ago. The other species did not know what to make of humans. They were soft compared to the Drakari. They were not as smart as the Xylari. But they had a way of not dying when they should. They called it stubbornness. They called it luck. Either way, it made the other species nervous. Voss was a special kind of problem. He did not follow orders well. He thought rules were more like suggestions. And he had a strange habit of making friends with dangerous animals. Just last month, he had hidden a venomous sand eel in his quarters on a command cruiser. When asked why, he said the eel looked lonely. The Drakari commander had almost executed him on the spot. Now, that same commander stood before him, reading his sentence. Cadet Kalen Voss, the Drakari said, his voice like stones grinding together. You are sentenced to relocation on Terminus 7. The words hung in the air. Everyone in the room knew what that meant. Relocation was a kind word for death. They would put him in a drop pod, send him down, and never speak of him again. Voss did not flinch. His face was calm, almost bored. He looked at the Drakari with eyes that held no fear. The commander leaned closer. No rescue will come, he said, wanting to see some crack in the human's calm. No ship will return for you. You will die there, alone. Voss smiled. It was not a nervous smile. It was the smile of a man who already had a plan. I understand, he said. But I have 2 requests. The Xylari representative tilted her head. Requests? You are in no position to make requests. I know, Voss said. But you will give me these anyway because it costs you nothing. The room went quiet. No one had ever spoken to the High Command like that. What do you want? The Vorth representative asked, his voice sharp. Voss nodded toward the supply table. A standard survival kit, the one every cadet gets. The Vorth waved a hand. Fine. And the second? Voss pointed to a small device on a nearby shelf. It was a recording drone, the kind used for training videos and mission logs. That, he said. I want that. The Drakari commander let out a sound that might have been a laugh. A drone? You are going to a death world and you ask for a drone. Voss shrugged. I like to document things. The council looked at each other. They saw no harm in it. A drone would not help him survive. It would not call for rescue. It was a small gift for a dead man. Granted, the Vorth said. The guards took Voss away. He walked with his head high, not looking back. The council watched on a monitor as the drop pod fell toward Terminus 7. The pod entered the atmosphere, a streak of fire against the green and purple sky. It disappeared into the clouds. The Xylari representative checked her data pad. His survival probability is less than 2% within the first hour. The Drakari commander crossed his arms. He will be dead by morning. The Vorth representative nodded. Then this matter is closed. They turned away from the monitor, already moving on to the next problem. The human was forgotten. But somewhere on the surface of Terminus 7, a drop pod opened with a hiss of steam. A boot stepped out onto alien soil. Cadet Kalen Voss looked up at the strange sky, then down at the jungle that stretched before him. In one hand, he held his survival kit. In the other, the drone hovered, its red light blinking as it recorded. He took a deep breath and smiled. Not bad, he said to no one. I've fished in worse places. Then he walked into the trees, and the jungle closed behind him. A week had passed since Cadet Kalen Voss fell to Terminus 7. The High Council had moved on to other matters. To them, he was already dead. His file was marked closed. No one spoke his name. But in a small room deep inside the Federation's communications hub, a young Vorth officer named Trell sat at his station. His job was simple. He monitored the signals from disposed assets. It was boring work. Most of the signals were just static or the last dying beeps of broken equipment. No one ever sent anything from a death world. That was the whole point. Then his screen blinked. A faint signal was coming from Terminus 7. It was encrypted, but the encryption was basic. Standard military code. Trell frowned. That was odd. A dead man should not be sending encrypted files. He was curious. He was also very bored. So he broke the code. A video file appeared on his screen. The quality was surprisingly good. It had been filmed by a recording drone, the kind used for training logs. Trell hesitated for a moment. Then he pressed play. The screen showed a riverbank on Terminus 7. Behind it, trees glowed with soft blue light, pulsing slowly like a heartbeat. The air looked thick and warm. And sitting on a log in the middle of it all was Cadet Kalen Voss. He looked different than Trell remembered. His uniform was torn and stained. He had cut it into shorts. His arms showed scratches and bruises. But his face was calm. More than calm. He looked relaxed, like a man on vacation. He looked straight into the drone and smiled. Trell felt his stomach turn. The human was supposed to be dead. Instead, he was smiling at a camera. Voss held up a long stick. It had a line tied to it, made from what looked like synthetic fiber from his survival kit. A simple fishing rod. Day 7, Voss said, his voice easy and warm. The local animals have been friendly. Well, most of them. He pointed behind him. Trell's eyes went wide. There, lying on the ground, was a massive creature. It was covered in scales and had teeth as long as a man's arm. The Xylari database called it a razor jaw. It was listed as an apex predator, something no single being could kill. And it was dead. Voss shrugged. Turns out, they don't like pit traps. Anyway, dinner is sorted. He turned back to the water. It glowed with strange colors, like oil on a wet street. Voss put something on his hook. A piece of the razor jaw's meat. Then he cast his line. The drone followed the line under the water. Trell leaned closer to his screen. A school of fish swam into view. They were beautiful, unlike anything Trell had ever seen. Their scales looked like crystal, and soft light glowed from inside their bodies. They moved like a cloud of stars. Voss's voice came from above the water. The Xylari database calls these glimmerfin. It says they are venomous predators. Dangerous. Avoid at all costs. The fish swam around the bait, curious but not aggressive. But look at their fins, Voss continued. Those are not predator fins. Predators have sharp fins for speed. These are round. They are bottom feeders. They eat things that fall to the river floor. The biggest fish took the bait. Voss pulled it up. And those glands on their sides, he said, holding the fish up to the drone. The database says they are venom sacs. But look closer. Trell looked. The glands pulsed with soft light, matching the trees on the shore. They are not for venom, Voss said. They are for light. These fish are not dangerous. They are just pretty. He cleaned the fish with a small laser knife. His hands moved fast, like he had done this 1,000 times. Then he placed it on a flat stone that was heated by a small fire underneath. The fish sizzled. The smell did not travel through the screen, but Trell could imagine it. Voss took a bite. He closed his eyes for a moment, then smiled. Pure umami, he said. A little peppery. A little sweet. The fat content is perfect. This might be the best fish I have ever eaten. He looked back at the drone, his grin wide and easy. So the no-return zone, he said, has some seriously good seafood. Who knew? The video ended. The file name appeared on Trell's screen. Asterisk Terminus 7 Catch and Cook, Episode 1, Glimmerfin on the Skewer. Asterisk. Trell sat in silence. His hands were shaking. He had just watched a man who was supposed to be dead make a cooking show from the most dangerous planet in the galaxy. He looked around the empty room. No one else had seen this. He was the only one who knew. He should report it. That was his job. But instead, he saved the file to his personal drive. Then he watched it again. And somewhere on Terminus 7, Voss sat by his fire, cleaning his fishing rod, already planning the next episode. Trell told himself he would not share the video. It was against regulations. It was dangerous. It could cost him his job. But he could not stop thinking about it. A human, alone on a death world, smiling and cooking fish like he was on vacation. It was too strange to keep to himself. That night, he showed it to one friend. a Xylari named Genax who worked in data analysis. Genax watched in silence, her logical mind trying to process what she saw. He should be dead, she said. The survival models gave him less than 2 hours. He is alive, Trell said. And he is making a cooking show. Genax asked for a copy. She said it was for research. Trell gave it to her. By the next morning, the video was everywhere. It spread through the datanet like fire. Someone sent it to someone, who sent it to 10 more. Within a single galactic cycle, millions had seen it. The file was copied, reposted, and shared across every corner of the Federation. The title became famous overnight. Asterisk Terminus 7 Catch and Cook. Episode 1. Glimmerfin on the Skewer. Asterisk. The reactions were not what anyone expected. The Xylari watched with fascination. They ran the footage through their analytical engines. How had the human survived the razor jaw? How had he known the glimmerfin were not venomous? They wrote long papers about human adaptability. They called it a case study in primitive survival instincts. Some of them were impressed. Most were confused. The Drakari watched in silence. They did not like humans. They thought they were soft and undisciplined. But they watched Voss stand over the body of a razor jaw, a creature that would take 3 Drakari warriors to bring down. They saw the pit trap he had built with nothing but a knife in his hands. They said nothing, but some of them nodded with grudging respect. But it was the ordinary citizens who changed the most. Merchants watched the video during their breaks. Laborers watched it after long shifts. Clerks watched it at their desks when no one was looking. They did not care about the military tactics or the scientific data. They watched because Voss was different. He did not talk about the planet like it was a death trap. He called it a little rough around the edges. He did not act like a soldier fighting for his life. He acted like a man on a camping trip who had found a good spot to fish. When he talked about the glimmerfin, he did not list their danger ratings. He described their taste. When he talked about the razor jaw, he did not brag about the kill. He talked about how the meat would last him a week. He made the most dangerous place in the galaxy feel small, feel manageable, feel almost friendly. The videos kept coming. Episode 3 appeared a few days later. The title read, Asterisk Building a Smoker from Hypergrowth Bamboo. Asterisk in it, Voss showed how he cut down the glowing bamboo that grew near the river. He wove it into a frame and covered it with large leaves. He built a small fire underneath and hung strips of razor jaw meat inside. Smoking is the oldest way to preserve meat, he said, his face lit by the orange glow of the fire. The bamboo gives it a sweet flavor. You would not believe how good this turns out. Episode 4 was called Asterisk The Spice Hunters of Terminus 7. Asterisk Voss climbed a cliff face to find a plant with bright red berries. He crushed them between 2 stones and tasted the powder. Spicy, he said, his eyes watering. Very spicy. But it has a citrus undertone. Perfect for the glimmerfin. Then came Episode 5. The title made Trell pause. Asterisk How to make a friendly alliance with a 6-legged pack hunter, and why you should. Asterisk. The video showed Voss walking through a valley. Ahead of him, 3 creatures stood in his path. They had 6 legs and sharp teeth. Their bodies were low to the ground, built for speed. The Drakari database listed them as Xenohounds. It said they were unkillable. It said they hunted in packs and tore apart anything that moved. Voss walked toward them slowly. He did not run. He did not raise a weapon. He held out a piece of cooked glimmerfin. The lead creature sniffed the air. Its head tilted. It took a step forward. Voss stayed still. The creature took the fish from his hand. It chewed once, twice, then swallowed. Its tail began to move back and forth. Voss smiled. He reached out slowly and scratched behind its ear. See, he said. Everyone just wants a good meal and a little kindness. By the end of the video, all 3 creatures were following him. He named the leader Bait. The Federation Council watched these videos in growing horror. They had sent Voss to Terminus 7 to die. Instead, he had become famous. Millions of citizens were watching him every day. They were laughing at his jokes. They were learning his recipes. They were starting to ask questions. If one unarmed human could live there, why was it a death world? If the planet was so dangerous, why did he look so happy? If the Federation had lied about Terminus 7, what else had they lied about? The Council had no answers. And somewhere on the surface of the planet, Voss sat by his fire with Bait curled at his feet, planning his next episode, still having no idea that the galaxy was watching. The Federation Council met in secret. There were no records of this meeting. No files. No witnesses. Only the 12 highest members of the High Command, sitting in a dark room, watching the latest video from Terminus 7. On the screen, Voss was teaching Bait to fetch a stick. The Drakari commander spoke first. "This cannot continue." The Vorth representative nodded slowly. "The public is asking questions. Dangerous questions. If we do nothing, they will demand answers we cannot give." The Xylari representative tilted her head. "What do you propose?" The Drakari commander stood up. His scales caught the dim light. "I propose a quiet resolution. A stealth ship. 3 of my best warriors. They land, they eliminate the target, they destroy the data. The planet kills him. Everyone assumes he died like he was supposed to." No one objected. The ship left that night. It was small and sleek, painted in dark colors that absorbed light. It moved through space like a shadow. The 3 Drakari warriors inside did not speak much. They had their orders. They had their weapons. They had their cloaking fields, devices that bent light around them and made them invisible. They landed on Terminus 7 just before dawn. The planet was louder than they expected. The trees pulsed with blue light. Strange calls echoed through the jungle. The air was thick and wet, pressing against their armor. Their senses showed life signs everywhere. Too many to count. They found Voss's camp without much trouble. He had not tried to hide it. There was a small shelter made of wood and leaves. A fire pit with cold ashes. A rack of smoked meat hanging from a tree. And a trail leading toward a canyon. The squad leader signaled his team. They activated their cloaking fields and moved forward. They found Voss standing on a rocky outcropping at the edge of a deep canyon. He was holding his fishing rod, looking down at the water far below. Bait sat next to him, tail wagging. The 3 warriors spread out. They raised their weapons. The squad leader aimed for the center of Voss's back. It would be quick, clean. The human would not even know what hit him. His finger touched the trigger. Then Voss spoke. "You know," he said, not turning around, "the razor jaws have a hunting pattern. They cloak too. Not like your fancy light-bending tech. They hide their scent. They mask their sound. I had to learn to see through it real quick." He tapped his temple and finally turned. His eyes moved across the empty space where 3 invisible warriors stood. He looked directly at each of them. "Thermal," he said. "Your armor runs hot. Seismic. Your footsteps shake the ground. And a bit of that human intuition you guys love to mock." He lowered his fishing rod. He smiled. "You 3 have been on patrol for 6 hours. Your armor's life support is recycling stale air. You are running on stimulants. And I know for a fact Drakari rations taste like compressed cardboard." He gestured behind him. The squad leader looked. There, in a small clearing, was a table. It was made of wood, woven with care. There were placemats made from large leaves. Bioluminescent fungi glowed softly in the center, casting a warm light. On the table was a large piece of meat, cooked and sliced, steaming in the cool morning air. Voss waved his hand toward the table. "Sit down," he said. "I have a razorjaw flank that has been dry aging for 3 days. I was going to save it for a special episode. This seems special enough." He looked at the drone hovering above him. "I am calling this one when the Federation sends you a care package." The squad leader stood frozen. His orders were clear. Eliminate the target. Destroy the data. Leave no trace. His stomach growled. The sound was loud. His armor's audio sensors picked it up. Voss heard it too. His smile grew wider. The squad leader looked at his team. He could see their hesitation even through their cloaking fields. They had been on stimulants for 18 hours. They had not eaten real food in 3 days. And the smell coming from that table was unlike anything he had ever encountered. Rich. Smoky. Tender. He made a decision. He deactivated his cloaking field. His 2 warriors did the same. They stood in the open, weapons lowered, looking at the human who was supposed to be their target. Voss pulled out a chair made from woven branches. "Sit. Eat. We can talk after." The squad leader removed his helmet. His scales were pale from lack of sunlight. His eyes were tired. He sat down at the table. The meat was perfect. Tender and smoky, with a sweet glaze that melted on his tongue. He had eaten nothing but military rations for 10 years. He had forgotten what real food tasted like. "This is good," he said quietly. Voss sat across from him, eating his own portion. "Told you." They ate in silence. The other 2 warriors joined them, removing their helmets, eating like they had never eaten before. Bait lay at Voss's feet, content. When the meal was over, the squad leader stood up. He looked at Voss for a long moment. Then he put his helmet back on. Voss was terminated by local fauna, he said. That is my report. His warriors nodded. They walked back to their ship without looking back. The council received the report and knew it was a lie. But they had no proof. And somewhere on Terminus 7, Voss sat at his table, cleaning his fishing rod, already planning the next meal. Months had passed since Voss first landed on Terminus 7. In that time, the galaxy had changed. The Voss vlogs were everywhere. Citizens watched them during meals, during work breaks, during family gatherings. Children pretended to be Voss, building stick shelters in their backyards and demanding smoked fish for dinner. Merchants sold merchandise bearing his face and his famous quotes. The galaxy is only as scary as you let it be had become a common saying, printed on cups and shirts and wall hangings. The Federation Council could not ignore it anymore. Tourism groups sent endless requests to visit Terminus 7. Xenobiologists demanded research permits. Explorers wanted to map the uncharted regions. The public wanted to see the planet that had turned a doomed cadet into a galactic icon. The council had no choice. They called an emergency session. The chamber was packed. Representatives from all 12 species sat in their high seats, looking down at the center of the room. The Xylari were there with their cold, logical eyes. The Vorth sat in neat rows, data pads ready. The Drakari stood along the walls, arms crossed, watching. The doors burst open. Cadet Kalen Voss walked in. He wore a clean version of his original uniform. It had been repaired and pressed, though the fabric was slightly faded from months on a death world. His hair was longer than before, tied back with a simple cord. His skin was tanned from the alien sun. He looked healthy, strong, confident. Beside him walked Bait. The Xenohound moved with easy grace, its 6 legs carrying it silently across the polished floor. Its eyes scanned the room with calm curiosity. It sat when Voss stopped, its tail wagging slowly. Behind them came a Drakari warrior in full armor. The council recognized him immediately. He was the same warrior who had led the kill squad months ago. The same warrior who had reported Voss dead. Now he stood behind the human like a guard, his hand resting on his weapon, daring anyone to make a move. The Vorth representative stood up. This is irregular. This is. I am not here to ask for forgiveness, Voss said. His voice cut through the chamber. It was calm, easy, the same voice he used in his videos. But there was steel underneath it. I am not here to beg for reintegration. I am not here to apologize for embarrassing you. He reached into his bag and pulled out a small device. He placed it on the floor in the center of the room. A holographic image appeared above it. It was Terminus 7. But it was not the Federation's map. This map was different. It showed details the Council had never seen. Every river, every mountain, every cave system. Zones marked in green for safe areas. Zones marked in red for danger. Notes floated beside each landmark, written in Voss's handwriting. Good fishing here. Razorjaw nesting ground. Safe water source. Glimmerfin spawning pool. Voss pointed to the map. You called this a no-return zone, he said. You said it was too dangerous to exploit. Too dangerous to visit. Too dangerous to even look at. He looked around the room, meeting the eyes of each representative. But it is not a wasteland. It is a preserve. A living world full of things no one has ever seen. You were afraid of it, so you locked it away and threw away the key. He stepped closer to the holographic map. I have spent a year on that planet. I have walked its valleys and climbed its mountains. I have fished its rivers and slept under its trees. I know where the dangerous zones are. I know where the safe zones are. I know which animals will kill you and which ones just look scary. He turned back to the council. I am not asking to be rescued. I am asking for a charter, a scientific and cultural preserve. I will be the warden. I will run expeditions. I will manage tourism. I will keep the idiots from getting eaten. He grinned. The same grin that had become famous across the galaxy. Think of it as a very exclusive fishing lodge. The chamber erupted. The Vorth shouted about regulations. The Xylari demanded data and proof. The Drakari elders pounded their fists on the railings. But through the noise, one thing was clear. No one could deny him. The public was on his side. The videos had made sure of that. Millions of citizens had watched him survive, thrive, and smile through it all. They trusted him. They believed in him. And they wanted to see Terminus 7 for themselves. The council argued for hours. But in the end, they had no choice. The charter was signed. Weeks later, a new video appeared on the datanet. It was titled Voss's Frontier, Grand Opening. The screen showed Voss standing at the edge of a cliff, looking out over a vast alien ocean. The water shimmered with colors that did not exist anywhere else in the galaxy. The sky was green and purple, streaked with clouds of gold. Bait sat beside him, its fur ruffled by the wind. He was no longer in a cadet uniform. He wore rugged clothes made from local materials, custom-fitted and practical. A fishing rod was slung across his back. A small pack hung at his side. He looked into the drone and smiled. Well, folks, it is official. Terminus 7 is now open for business. We are calling it Voss's Frontier. He pointed toward the ocean. Next episode, we are going deep into the glowing caverns. There are rumors of a blind, translucent giant eel living down there. Word is, they are delicious with a little garlic substitute. I intend to find out. He picked up his fishing rod and cast his line into the sea. The line sailed out, far and true, landing in the shimmering water with a soft splash. Bait threw back its head and howled. The sound echoed across the canyon, wild and free. Don't forget to like and subscribe, Voss said. And remember, the galaxy is only as scary as you let it be. The video faded to black, but the adventure was just beginning.